9 minutes ago, and it says President John Mahama has, in accordance with Article 1469 of the 1992 Constitution, removed the Chief Justice, Her Ladyship Justice Gertrude Torkonoo from office with immediate effect. This follows receipt of the report of the committee constituted under Article 1466 to inquire into a petition submitted by a Ghanaian citizen, Mr. Daniel Ofori. After considering the petition and the evidence, the committee found that the grounds of stated misbehavior under Article 1461 had been established and recommended her removal from office. Under Article 1469, the President is required to act in accordance with recommendation. So that's the information coming through President John Mahama removing the Chief Justice. There's also a statement that came in earlier, even before the statement on the Facebook page, or the official Facebook page of the Jubilee House. It was signed by the spokesperson to the President and Minister of Government Communications, Felix Kwakye-Ofosu, titled President Mahama removed Chief Justice Gertrude Torkonoo from office. And that three-paragraph statement, which came from Mr. Kwakye-Ofosu, said President John Mahama has, in accordance with Article 1469 of the 1992 Constitution, removed the Chief Justice, Her Ladyship Justice Gertrude Torkonoo from office with immediate effect. This follows receipt of the committee constituted under Article 1466 to inquire into a petition submitted by a Ghanaian citizen, Mr. Daniel Ofori. After considering the petition and the evidence, the committee found the grounds of stated misbehavior under Article 1461 had been established and recommended her removal from office. And Article 1469, the President is required to act in accordance with the committee's recommendation, signed by Felix Kwakye-Ofosu. And I just read that same wording on the official Facebook page of the Jubilee House. There, bringing you that update. So if you're just joining us here, this is 3FM 92.7, and a statement coming through is that President John Mahama, following the submission of that committee constituted to probe into the removal of the Chief Justice and Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution, after that committee submitted its report, has, looking at the recommendations of that committee, removed the Chief Justice from office. And I want to go through Article 146 to you, as stated in that letter released by the spokesperson to President John Mahama. Article 146, and I'll read from 9 to the 1 to the very last bit. It says, a justice of the Superior Court or a chairman of a regional tribunal shall not be removed from office except for stated misbehavior or incompetence, or on ground of inability to perform the functions of his office arising from infirmity of body or mind. And that was what was stated, one of the articles or clauses stated in that letter released by Felix Kwakye-Ofosu. I'll jump to 6, where it says, where the petition is for the removal of the Chief Justice, the President shall, acting in consultation with the Council of State, appoint a committee consisting of 2 justices of the Supreme Court, one of whom shall be appointed chairman by the President, and 3 other persons who are not members of the Council of State, nor members of Parliament, nor lawyers. 7 says the committee appointed under Clause 6 of this article shall inquire into the petition and recommend to the President whether the Chief Justice ought to be removed from office. And that's what we saw Felix Kwakye-Ofosu put in that statement issued earlier, that the President, acting on the recommendation of the committee, has decided to remove the Chief Justice from office. Now, when you continue from 8 to the end. It says all proceedings under this article shall be held in camera, and the justice or chairman against whom the petition is made is entitled to be heard in his defense by himself or by a lawyer or other experts of his choice. 9 says the president shall in each case act in accordance with the recommendations of the committee. And in this case, and in that statement coming from Felix Kwachiofosu, the indication that the president is acting in response to the recommendation by the committee. And it says where a petition has been referred to a committee under this article, the president may act in the case of the Chief Justice acting in accordance with the advice of the Council of State by warrant signed by him, suspend the Chief Justice. And if you've been following this story, you do understand that the Chief Justice, following the setting up of that committee by the president, was suspended and had been under suspension until today, where the breaking news is coming through that per the recommendations of the committee set up by the president, she has eventually been relieved of her position. Now, the B of clause 10 of Article 146 says, in the case of any other justice of a superior court or of a chairman of a regional tribunal acting in accordance with the advice of the Judicial Council, suspend that justice or that chairman of a regional tribunal. And 11 says the president may at any time revoke a suspension under this article. Again, if you've been following this, you would know that with the latest information coming through that the Chief Justice has been sacked, as it were, that clause 11 is not applicable here, because now it's moved from being suspended to now being relieved of her position. So if you're just joining us, this is 3FM 92.7. The breaking news we're bringing to you is that President John Mahama has, in accordance with the recommendations by that committee he set up to look into 3 petitions that were brought against the Chief Justice, has decided to relieve Madam Gertrude Torkonoo of her position. I want us to go to TV3 now, where my colleague Dennis Pwaberi is currently taking us through some timelines regarding exactly what happened up until today.
Approval of the Chief Justice then,
right,
describing him as being deficient. But fast forward to March and the new administration, 3 petitions, including the one we are now discussing now, for which a report has been submitted, and the president acting on that particular report were also submitted to the Council of State. The president's we are now discussing now, for which a report has been submitted, and the president acting on that particular report were also submitted to the Council of State. The president went ahead together with the Council of State again.
That the presented this report of the committee, this 5-member committee, to His Excellency the President, John Mahama. Let's take a look at that video right now. Just a moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President, Araba Sakitokon, and the public was made aware of these facts. Subsequent processes dictated by the Constitution and the decisions of our Supreme Court were gone through, culminating in the establishment of our committee under Article 146, Clause 6 of the Constitution. The nation was further duly informed, and when we commenced our work on the 15th of May 2025, the Minister of State for Government Communications was briefed to notify the public about it. There has been considerable interest in our work, shown through comments and opinions by Ghanaians and international observers as well. However, the committee restrained itself all along from reacting even when blatant false statements were made about members of the committee and our work. To the committee, our mandate and remit is set out under Article 146, clauses 7 and 8 of the Constitution. It's clear, and it is to inquire into the petitions in camera, hear the person against whom the petitions have been brought in her defense by herself or by her lawyer or other expert of her choice, and then make a recommendation to you, Mr. President. As I have said above, 3 petitions were referred to us. And though all 3 petitions seek the same relief, each petition is distinct and would succeed or fail on its individual strengths or weaknesses. Mr. President, without disclosing the substance of the proceedings, and since in-camera proceedings is not the same as in secret, we can state that in respect of the first petition, we received evidence by Mr. Daniel Ofori, the first petitioner, through 13 witnesses. Similarly, the Chief Justice in her defense called 12 witnesses, including expert witnesses, as she is entitled to do under the Constitution. The Chief Justice testified personally and was cross-examined. The committee received about 10,000 pages of documentary evidence from both sides. There were 4 lawyers that represented the first petitioner, Daniel Ofori, and 4 lawyers represented the Chief Justice. Mr. President, after critical and dispassionate examination and assessment of all the evidence, including the expert evidence, against the provisions of the Constitution and the relevant laws, we have, without fear or favor, arrived at a recommendation on the first petition. The recommendation is contained in the envelope which I now give to you.
The petitions that were presented before the presidency against the suspended Chief Justice. Like I told you, Justice Gabriel Scott Parman was the chairman of that committee. There were 4 other members of that committee, and those were Justice Samuel Kwame Adibu Esiedu, Justice of the Supreme Court. He was a member. Daniel Yao Domelevo, former Auditor General, a member. Major Flora Dalugo with the Ghana Armed Forces, a member of that 5-member committee, as well as Professor James Sefajisa, Associate Professor, University of Ghana, a member of that committee, which was set up earlier in April. And again, we had Felix Kwakye-Ofosu, the government spokesperson and on communications, and also spokesperson of the president, giving us details of that. This is Free FM 92.7, and this is the coverage of our breaking news, bringing to you here that the President John Mahama, after receiving that report from the 5-member committee he established way back in April to look into 3 petitions that were brought to him against the Chief Justice then, Gertrude Torkonoo, he's decided to relieve her of her positions and her position. And you heard again when I read to you that statement coming from the presidency. Let me just read that to you again before we go. And that statement said, President John Dramani Mahama has, in accordance with Article 1469 of the 1992 Constitution, removed the Chief Justice, her leadership, Justice Gertrude Torkonoo, from office with immediate effect. This follows receipt of the report of the committee constituted under Article 1466 to inquire into a petition submitted by a Ghanaian citizen, Mr. Daniel Ofori. After considering the petition and the evidence, the committee found that the grounds of stated misbehavior under Article 1461, which I read to you some minutes ago, had been established and recommended her removal. 46 clauses 1 and 9. Let me just read that to you. The clause 1 says a justice of the Superior Court or a chairman of a regional tribunal shall not be removed from office except for stated misbehavior or incompetence or on ground of inability to perform the functions of his office arising from infirmity of body or mind. And the 9 says the president shall in each case act in accordance with the recommendations of the committee. This is 3FM 92.7. At 5 p.m., we're back with some analysis on this.
Breaking news on 3FM 92.7.
My name is Beatrice Edu. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll continue with our programming with The Drive.